we about to do it. Watch us get into it. We some lumberjacks, and we needin' wood. Yeah, we going for the sweep, then we mop it up. We put it all on the block, and then we chop it up, 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 chop it up. We put it all on the block, and then we chop it up.
Ladies and gentlemen, back from Nashville, back from the flu. Well, at least 75% back from the flu. This is the Chopping Block Podcast presented by DJ's Clam Shack here in St. Augustine, Florida. And it's great to be back in St. Augustine, Florida. They had me in this big old hotel and had, Jurassic Park inside. And I think one of them plants gave me the flu. But, hey, we are back. It's this week in college football. And, man, do we have a stacked lineup for you. I'm going to get right into it. We saw it on Saturday night. Some of you saw it live from the stadium. Some of you saw it, cooped up in a bed with the flu. That's how I saw it, but it was clear as day. Georgia 52, Ole Miss 17. And to me, the Georgia Bulldogs are the country's best football team right now in college football. And that's how I'll start off the show. We'll throw it down to Auburn. And Craig, do you have any disagreements?
I can't disagree with you on that. They look pretty good against a ranked team. I mean, you talk about signature wins as far as the playoff rankings go so far, right? I mean, this is kind of a misleading stat because we still have conference championship games. We still got rivalry weekend to go. It's so hard to make this call, but I try to differentiate this between what I think is going to happen and what's actually going on right now. And right now, I would agree. I think Georgia looks like the best team in the land, just judging by the signature couple wins they've had compared to the Michigans and the Ohio States. And the Washingtons. I'm still not sold on Florida State after that struggle win. I don't think there's any margin for error in that conference. I think another struggle win, and I mean, if they went out, they went out. But man, they've been flirting with the devil for sure. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen when that comes up, but as of right now, that's who I got. I got UGA number 1.
Well, I agree. A lot more people I'd rather flirt with than the devil. Dylan, what do you got to say?
Yeah, I think they're the best in the country, but, what does that mean? You still got to go play Tennessee, then you got to go play Georgia Tech. You got to win every week. So saying you're the best don't mean shit. You got to go do it. Now, talking about this game, there was rumor mills, and a lot of people didn't believe it, but I knew I had the inside scoop. Brock Bowers was fully healthy, ready to go. I still didn't believe it until I seen him, make his first catch, hit a little jump juke on somebody. But this team had to find ways to win without Brock. They got healthy. They found ways to win. They kind of found an identity without Brock, and then you add Brock into that, it makes this offense just a completely different threat. They're averaging 40 points a game, almost 41. Fire Mike Bobo. This team is clicking at the end of the season like we wanted them to. But we'll see. Humility's a week away, as Kirby says. So we got to go beat Tennessee.
That's right, Coach Price.
Well, if you said that an SEC team that was ranked in the top 5 played an opponent on Saturday and they beat them 52-17, you would think it was Alabama playing Chattanooga next week. But no, it's Georgia against an SEC West opponent who was ranked inside the top 10, and they got totally dominated. At the beginning of the game, Ole Miss goes up, scores 14 points. Everybody's like, whoa, wait a minute. Kirby Schumann did exactly what you're supposed to do. Go get the old school whiteboard, put it in front of them, tell me what they're doing, and I'm going to tell you what to do. And the adjustments are perfect. The one thing I can say about Kirby and that staff, it's not the game preparation that you're looking forward to see. It's the adjustments that he makes throughout the game. If you can't make adjustments, you can't win. Everything that Ole Miss tried to do and Lane Kiffin tried to do. They had success with it on a play or two, got to the sideline, made an adjustment. It never happened again. So hats off to Georgia, hats off to Kirby, hats off to y'all. Nobody mentions his name whatsoever. My boy Will Muschamp, played against him in high school too. But the adjustments that Georgia make are top notch. You can have success one time, but you won't have it again. I tell people all the time when they say, you know, a big play was broke on Georgia or whatever, I turn around and I type, won't happen again. And it don't happen again. The only game where I can sit here and say it scared me because it happened more than once was the Auburn game. But the adjustments that Kirby and that team makes proves that they are the number one team in the nation, because only a team like that can make those type of adjustments and come out and beat the brakes off a team like Ole Miss. And not only that, we were shorthanded as far as signal caller on defense. And we had a freshman come in and we didn't miss a beat. And why did we not miss a beat? Is because Kirby knows how to make the adjustments. You can't do it like Dumas, but the skill set you got is different from Dumas. So what we're going to do is make this adjustment and then watch what happens. And what ended up happening, 52-17, bye-bye Rebel.
Hey, they say Bo knows, but maybe it's Kirby knows. Because what the Georgia defense, has done, and it's really the last 2 or 3 years, they bend at times, but they don't break. And then when they really need to, they repel back and just wipe you off the field. Big turnovers here or just a complete shutdown. I mean, you're talking, Ole Miss didn't cross the 50 a lot in the second half. Really, the last 3 quarters, and 3 points in the last 3 quarters. This is a great Georgia defense, and they've shown that. I think they have a top 5 defense in the country. I don't think there's any disputing that. In the offense, to me, it's top 5 in the country too. This could be one of the more complete Georgia teams the more we're looking at it. So I was pretty happy with that. Jared, what you got to say?
Yeah, this team has showed that I mean, they've done everything they can to be the number 1 team in the country. But like Dylan said, that's really irrelevant right now. All we need is top 4, right? But I do think they've shown everything. And like you said, they offensively, defensively, they're top 10 offense, top 10 defense. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, I can really care less. But I do believe they have shown. In this game, we knew Ole Miss was not very good on the road. But they are an explosive offense, and we held Jackson Dart to throwing the ball 17 times. That was it. And his legs were never really a factor in this game. C.J. Allen and Damian Wilson, those 2 cats right there really stepped up for the defense this time. This Georgia team has played with a next man up mentality all year long. It feels like every snap somebody else gets hurt. Amarius Mims comes back this week and absolutely shows out. Kendall Milton having the game of his career Saturday. Don't know where that's been. He has not ran like that since he stepped foot on campus, and that cat ran like a man, like a top 3 running back in the country is what he ran like. I think he had like 9 carries for 125. But even Ole Miss going down and scoring the first drive, this game never really felt like it was ever close. Georgia comes right back out. They score on offense. They get stops on defense when they have to. They're the best 3rd down team on defense in the country. I mean, they're just firing all cylinders right at the time. But Tennessee's on Saturday. Got to play that game before you can play anything, and then Alabama's on December 2nd. So I mean, everything Georgia's got still in front of them. You got to go out and finish. You got to go out and play. Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp, Glenn Schumann. I mean, hats off to those guys, and I hope Julian Humphrey gets back healthy enough. But this team with Damian Wilson, C.J. Allen, 2 young freshmen coming in and playing like they do. Hey, man, they look like the number 1 team in the country to me.
Yeah, another interesting stat on Georgia that I just seen. Out of all the teams who are in contention to make the Final Four this year, there's probably like 8, maybe 9 teams who have a shot at it. Georgia's the only team who's top 10 in offense and defense.
I know. I had a feeling every one of you was going to say Georgia. I don't know why. I just had that feeling. But you can't say that Georgia is not the best looking team in the country. But let me throw a little something out there.
Oh God.
Two other teams, I think are dangerous. Oregon and Alabama.
Yep.
And nobody hates Alabama more than me. Now, what the funny thing is, I started out this year hating the Dogs. Ended up hating the Mo Elephants. I think there is like a symmetry between Alabama and Georgia. They both had a quarterback, started out a little bit rough, getting better and better. Obviously, I think Beck is a better thrower of the ball, but he's nowhere near the athlete that Miro is. So, and then they both tough on defense, and they both will coach. And they both make those adjustments that the coach is talking about. So when it really comes down to it, if I had to pick two, I would pick Alabama and Georgia. I think this SEC championship game is going to be one of the best of all time. We set up for something great. So I'll give Georgia the edge because the king stay the king until you knock them off. But Bama, as much as I hate to say it, they got a little voodoo going right now.
Well, you led us up right to it, Barry. A perfect lead into what is already set in stone. On December 2nd, I believe it is, in Atlanta, Georgia, where the Dirty Birds come to play. It's the Georgia Bulldogs and the Alabama Crimson Tide once again. And, like Barry said, this is going to be a great matchup, a matchup you would want to end the SEC season. I can't think of a better one. Barry might be able to, but I know he would like to see LSU, Georgia, and quite frankly, I would like to might be a little bit easier than Alabama.
No, I don't want no part of Jaden.
No.
We score 100, and they score 65. I mean,
okay, that's fine, but
Yeah. No,
I
like this.
Alabama's a little bit more scarier, but I will say it's going to be a great matchup. I'd love to be able to attend that game. Heard that Coach Price might be in attendance, so
indeed,
we hope he's there. But this is what it all boils down to, boys, for all the marbles. And the question is tonight, what do you got going into this game? Who has the edge? And also, the loser of this game, are they automatically out of the college football playoff? And I know that's probably a different scenario for each team. But we'll start with Craig. What do you got to say?
Let me preface this by saying I'm sure you guys know what it's like to mention anything to Alabama, an Alabama fan that's negative. The direct quote is, what about our 4,864 national championships? So they act like they don't count losses, and that's fine. They shouldn't count SEC championship wins either, and that's fine. But nothing's going to make me happier to demoralize them at Jordan-Hare and then them to squeak on in the SEC championship game without it meaning a damn thing. It's going to mean absolutely nothing to them. You guys are worried about Bama could go here, but if they get beat by Auburn, it's over.
Yep.
Season lost. Period. There is no coming back. There is no second. There is none of that stuff. Moral victory ain't going to matter. Kirby Smart will have that team ready. I don't think it's going to matter either way. I really don't, because, and you were mentioning LSU versus Bama. Ask me how good Milroe is compared to Jaden Daniels. I'll take Milroe every day and twice on Sunday than facing that little guy again. He torched Auburn like he's done everybody else all year. So, if you can't score 45 or 50, you might as well not apply to play LSU. Now, granted, LSU's defense is nowhere near as good as Georgia. I'm not trying to say that they are, but, strange things happen. You don't want to get in a shootout. Defense travels, offense don't, except for LSU's. That's the only one that gets on the bus week in and week out, no matter where they're playing at.
Yep.
I think it will be a good SEC championship game, and of course, we're getting pretty accustomed to this matchup. I just hope that Bama's playing for pride and nothing else. And then I'll get my tickets ready for the Music City Bowl that Auburn's going to go to this year and be happy. We were predicted to win 4. We're already on 6. We're definitely going to win 7, possibly 8. I think we're ahead of schedule.
Heck yeah.
And flipping people all the time. I hate to bring it on Auburn. If y'all saw that, we flipped 2 5-stars this weekend.
Yeah.
It's going – Frieza, you got to give the man one thing. He can recruit.
He can do more than that, but he can definitely recruit.
Yeah, he
That's
can recruit.
true. I wouldn't be shocked, if he's old Rick Pitino, got some strippers in the clubhouse.
He
But,
got over that once before, but now it's legal.
Whatever works.
That's right. Hey, long as you pay him money, I guess it's legal now. But I'll tell you what, Dylan, we already know what you're going to say here, I feel like, but
Maybe.
I want to hear it anyway.
I think we opened as a 3-point favorite a couple days ago, which I then in turn got a screenshot of that and sent to me from Tony with the little devil emoji. He's happy to be an underdog, and I said, that's the difference between Georgia and Bama. Y'all want to be the underdog. Y'all want everybody to count y'all out. Y'all scared of the throne. Georgia fans, we're not. We know we're better.
Boo-hoo, Bama. Ain't nobody counting them out. They need to shut that crybaby shit up.
Look,
I'm so sick of hearing that.
that game will be a fight if we can't contain Milroe. If he runs for 130, it's going to be a fight till the end. But with, I'll never say we get better without having our senior linebacker, but I will say we definitely got a whole lot faster. C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson, Damon Wilson, these guys are going to – it's going to be their task to spy and contain Jalen Milroe. They've all got the speed. Yes, they're all true freshmen, but they've got the speed to do it. If we can prevent him from running and we make him sit in the pocket and throw intermediate throws to move the ball, he's going to turn the ball over and we're going to smack him. But now you do got to look at their defense. Their defense is a top 10 defense in the country. But over time throughout that game, I feel like we're going to have more success just because we can do it in multiple ways. And I don't know, man. I'm just really confident in that game if we can stop him from running around. If he starts taking off, you never know. The better team can get beat by one player if that one player dominates. So you just got to prevent that.
True. I agree. And that's beaten Georgia before versus Alabama.
What's the best quarterback y'all played this year? I can't think of it yet. Most athletic quarterback.
We just played
Georgia.
Yeah.
Y'all
We
miss.
just played him.
Mm-hmm. Dart.
Honestly, if you ask me, the harder runner to stop was Missouri.
Cook. Yeah, Cook.
Cook.
And he's torched everybody. Jared.
Well, this is the game that we thought we were going to see from well, I said week 1, but then we saw Alabama do what they did, and they came back. They're playing well right now. Jalen Milroe is playing well. The cat runs his ass off. He does. But in my opinion, it's because he has to. They don't have a set-up game plan. If you take his legs out of the equation, which is not going to happen. Jalen Milroe is him because of his legs as well. But they don't have a lot of weapons outside of that consistently produce. And I mean, really, his legs have come really along these last few games. And like Dylan said, if we can stop that or we can just contain that, I love our chances. But at the same time, and as a Georgia fan, I never, ever thought I would get around to saying this. In a shootout, I feel comfortable. I mean, if that's what we have to do, then that's what we have to do. But for Georgia, we scored in every single facet that we can think of. The running game is starting to come along decently well. Outside between Ra Thomas, Levitt, a top 5 receiver in Lad McConkey, and I will take that to the grave tomorrow. The cat is a top 5 receiver in the country. I don't care. See
What
me
the
on the
stats
stat
are.
sheet about it. Yeah, see me on the stat sheet about it. I don't care. The cat is a
Can
top
he graduate
5
already, please?
receiver. Exactly.
COVID
And I
year,
mean,
get one more.
And
How old is he,
gets
43?
at 44.
Half.
The COVID year. But there's just so many weapons on offense, and I trust and hand up, man. I didn't think I would say this at the start of the year. That I trust Carson Beck with everything. That cat, week in, week out, shows it every single time. I was wrong. Yes, Barry, I see your ear popping up. I was wrong. That cat is playing at a level right now, which I did not think at the start of the year that he was capable of. Now, Alabama on the defensive side of the ball is cutthroat. Those guys are good, and they're just teeing it off at the right time. But it's like Dylan said, man, I just have this confidence that they will figure it out because you've got to cover Brock Bowers. You've got to cover Ra. You've got to cover Lad McConkey. You've got to cover a back out of the backfield. There's so many things that they have to do. But, I mean, if he gets out there and runs for 140 yards, if Milroe gets out there and runs for 140 yards, man, we could lose this game in a heartbeat quick. But I do think Kirby and Glenn Schumann will have something for that. I do think we put somebody on defense that your job all day long, even if the sky is falling, is to watch Milroe's shoelaces until the whistle blows. That's it. That is your job today, and that is it. And if Georgia can go out there and do that, then we have as good a chance as anybody, and so do they.
Who do you think a low score helps in this game? Who do you think that favors?
Georgia.
A low score, yeah, Georgia. I really believe Alabama's going to have to. If this is going to be the Auburn game for them as well, they're going to have to live off some explosive plays. Like you're going to have to live off of a 50-yard touchdown pass, a 48-yard Milroe run. You're going to have to do that. I don't think you can nickel and dime your way down the field consistently enough for when you be able to drag out a game in a low-scoring game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like Alabama's offense, if you take the explosives out of it, they're below average offense. Their entire offense is I'm going to scramble outside the pocket. DBs are going to suck up, and I'm lobbing it over the top. That's been their entire offense. And if you want to talk about Georgia's defense giving up explosives, we're a top 5 defense. We don't give them up.
Yeah,
very rarely.
100%. And I mean, they sat out there. And, sorry, Dalton. Last thing. Sorry, didn't mean to say this. Kamari Lassiter has a seatbelt across his ass. That cat is playing. He is playing, and Auburn will like that. He's playing like an Auburn DB right now.
Yeah.
And these Auburn DBs the last 3 years, and some of them you've never even heard of, but them cats have a seatbelt on your ass.
Dude, yeah, you're not
playing like that.
Dude, literally like the last 3 years for Auburn, there'd be a guy where you'd be like, all right, we're going to take these 10 guys. We're going to play over here. You got him. And they don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. You don't give up nothing.
Yes, dude. And he is doing that right now. And if Julian Humphrey can be back, I know he had a little wrist injury or whatever it was his last game. I mean, these are sneakily some of the 2-3 best DBs Georgia's had in the last 20, 30 years. And it's not being talked about.
Hey, drunk Skip Bayless, do you need some lotion to go with that Woody?
Hey, I think the defense got some dogs on it, and it just keeps getting better, man. We got some more recruits coming up. I just flipped a kid that was a commit from the #1 JUCO defensive back in the country. He's coming to Auburn next year. I mean, I'll take it. I mean, you've seen the only way you wear Auburn's defense out is keeping them on the field all day. That's it. If you can sustain any kind of drive with the offense, Auburn's tough, man. Auburn's a tough team to beat right now. And we've come so far, leaps and bounds with that interchangeable quarterback crap. We finally got a starting quarterback that's been playing pretty good. Who's surprisingly fast, by the way. I don't know if you guys have watched any highlights of him running around. We all thought Ashford was the guy who was fast, but apparently Peyton Thorne's got some wheels on him too.
Yes, he does.
It'll be interesting to see. I know everybody – I'm still not sold on Bama's defense being elite. I'm not saying they're good. I still think that back end is kind of soft, fellas. I have not seen it. I've not. They don't have the stud cover corner or the free safety that's going to eat your lunch like they have had for forever. I just don't see it. Now, I know they're young and they're developing, but I don't – I will say their defense is good. I'm not saying but calling them elite. Their front seven is amazing.
Yeah.
They always got linebackers. Alabama spits linebackers out like Auburn spits tailbacks out. They're going to have a linebacker.
I think this game before I throw it to Coach Price. This game boils down to one thing, and it's the wide receiver play. Alabama does not have that guy, to me, that can put the pressure on Georgia's secondary like an Amari Cooper did. I mean, God, like there's 5 other guys, Waddle, Ruggs. I mean, it's just
Julio
endless.
Williamson.
Jerry
Williamson, Judy. You know, they don't have that guy this year. You mean to tell me you really think Jermaine Burton is going to beat Georgia? No,
They're gonna
they ain't
crush
no
you.
way.
Don't say that, because if he does, I'm gonna have a bad evening.
And the
Listen,
thing
I
about it,
truly
you
don't.
got to also consider if they're bad or is Miro bad.
No, I think a lot of it's what's going to show is you're going to see both things. Number one, I don't think Milroe is going to have much time to throw. I think we will get pressure on him, but it's going to be that contained pressure that Georgia's been doing. It's not like, you know, one guy's just getting to the quarterback untouched and wreaking havoc. It's almost like coverage sacks. You know, a lot of it. There you can't hold the ball for more than 4 seconds. And if you do, you get sacked by Georgia. And that's rushing 4 or 5. So I think that's going to be the key to the game is the Alabama wide receivers. I don't think they're going to get enough separation. You're going to have some turnovers. Don't be shocked if Georgia wins comfortably.
If Alabama sells out and shuts down Georgia's run, there's going to be some issues, because then you're talking about putting everything on Carson Beck. And while I do think he can get it done, he's much better off play action when we have the threat to run. If they shut that down and then they can just, you know, pin their ears back and pressure him, it's going to be tougher to score. But again, the RO line's clicking. We just got a first rounder back at right tackle. Like I think we'll be fine.
And Alabama's defensive line, let's be honest, guys. I mean, they have been horrible this year. I mean, this is not an Alabama defensive line that is, you know, highly talked about. They are ran on very easily. I mean, LSU had success on the ground. You know, I mean, everybody had success running the football. Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to have a lot of success running the football. Like I said in the pregame, Kendall Milton might be your X factor in this SEC championship game. That was the most healthy we've ever seen him in his whole entire career. You can say he hadn't played up to, you know, whatever. He hadn't been healthy. He looked healthy Saturday night. And that's what we recruited him for. I mean, he looked great. But Coach Price finishes off.
Well, I look at this game, it's going to be straight up battle. It's not going to be easy for either side. What's going to come into play is the key matchups. One key matchup, we got our run game going, but we got 2 tight ends. So which poison will Alabama's linebackers have to pick? If we get play action pass going and you get Delk and Bowers both out into the flats, it's over for Alabama, because we're going to press you deep with our wide receivers, because Alabama's DBs never come down. They always stay over the top. So that tells you right then and there that Nick knows there's a weakness in his secondary, because he never, if like you were saying earlier, Craig, they don't have a corner that can take chances with a safety that can cover his mistakes.
To rotate. Yeah, they can't rotate him around,
So
man. They just
can't. So that's going to force Alabama to have to stay deep in the back end. Play action pass with Delk, Bowers, backside of the backfield. That's going to put stress on Alabama's linebackers, and we're going to be able to run the ball. But this is the difference in the ball game to me. Georgia's front on defense is going to be the best, most physical, and fastest defense that Alabama's lines faced all year, and we already know that line is shaky. 2, we got linebackers that can run with Milroe no matter where he goes. So you take the same blueprint that Texas put on Milroe, we got 4 guys that can do it. So guess what Kirby's going to do? Rotate fresh feet on a quarterback who's getting tired from being chased down. So don't look for that to happen. And not only that, this is the best secondary that Milroe will face all season. We already know all he got is a deep ball. Well, guess what? We got a guy in the back end with the last name Starks. He love for you to do that. So Jermaine Burton, I'm not taking anything away from this guy, but what you done was you made that secondary want to step their game up another notch because you haven't sniffed a ring since you left us. But the reason why you left us is because we wasn't going to win anything with Stetson Bennett and Carson Beck. So you skipped town on us. Well, that's a personal issue to Georgia in that defensive secondary. So when you get up doing your little church, you better say hallelujah that they didn't kill you. But I'm telling you right now, the differences in this ball game is Alabama's shaky offensive line against a faster, physical defensive front than they've faced all year. Number two, like I said, we got 4 freshmen that can run anywhere on that field, sideline to sideline with Miro. And we got a secondary that's waiting on you to do the one thing that you can do, Miro, and that's throw a deep ball. So look for Bullock to have a good game. Look for Tyke Smith to come off the edge to just get Miro out of the pocket so that our linebackers can chase him down. And look for our corners to lock your wide receivers down. The biggest difference in this ball game in the secondary is how many times does that yellow piece of cloth come out in Nick Saban's favor. That's what you got to be careful on, because if you don't think he can argue his way or whine his way into a pass interference, watch him. I don't care what nobody says. This man can get more late flags. Notice the word late, because you're going to hear the commentators say that a lot. Oh, a late flag came out. What's a late flag? That's the one that Nick paid for. But you watch and you see, the defense that Georgia has is the best defense that Alabama's offense will face all year long, and we know that they are definitely going to struggle up front. And we got guys that can run with their guys all over the field. It's going to be a juggernaut till halftime, but in the third quarter, the ball game will be decided. In the fourth quarter, it's just going to be straight up sportsmanship.
Oh, you calling for a 3-peat?
No, I'm calling for an SEC championship. 3-peat is something that I'm hoping for, but right now I'm just trying to get past them boys, because the scenario right now is too thick. If this was next year and we got 12 teams in the playoffs, I would literally say, Kirby, tell Brock and the rest of the boys to come out in Adidas sweatsuits and Kangos and gold chains and act like they the fat boys and just danced on the sidelines. Don't even get in the ball game. No need to play them. But right now, it's too much meat to be put on the plate in order for them to just sit back and relax. Because, I mean, we're in a situation where a 1-loss Alabama and a 1-loss Georgia, but Alabama beat them head to head. And then you take everybody else that they want to put in the playoffs, because it's going to be 3 teams in the playoffs that they're not going to go against. Whether it's Washington or Oregon, one of those 2 are in. Florida State went out. You're not going to shit on them. They're in. And then you got Georgia or Alabama, who is going to be in. And then you got a Michigan or an Ohio State who's going to be in. So it's too many people or too many teams at this table to feast, and it's not enough meat on somebody's plate. So this game means more than you can imagine. The SEC championship game right now, fellas, is a national championship game.
Right.
You know what? It seems like it always is. Let's be honest. I mean, there for a while we had a streak of I don't know how many years where the SEC champion was your national champion. Hey,
you remember the Iron Bowl was that way for 3 or 4 years too.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
So that's the thing about SEC football. That's why we had to talk about the SEC championship. But we're going to go to the next slide here, and there's 2 teams that we know is not looking for a coach. But look at this guy here. He says you got a coach, and Texas A&M needs one because Jimbo Fisher has been let go of his duties. And I heard they had to bring 30 Brinks trucks to get his buyout clause on his way out. He had more trucks hauling money off than he did hauling his valuables from his office. So that's not a bad problem to have. Craig, who takes over at Texas A&M and why?
Hey, first off, let me say, who in the hell gets fired after a win? That was a crazy. Both coaches got fired. It was crazy, right?
Yeah.
So that happened. The second thing is, I've done some jobs poorly in my time, I'm sure. Nobody's ever offered to pay me $78 million to stop doing it. He gets $21 million in 2 weeks, and they're going to pay him $12 million a year for I don't know how many years that math adds up to. But there is one thing I will say about this that makes me happy. It now equals the largest buyout, which Auburn held that distinction for a minute with Gus Malzahn at $21 million. So that makes it looks like pocket change.
Yep.
You know who? And I said this in our chat earlier in the week. You know who scares the hell out of me is Lane Kiffin at Texas A&M. Lane Kiffin with unlimited resources is a scary proposition. I don't know if that's a thing to do. He didn't come to Auburn. I don't blame him. I think we got the guy we needed. And Hugh Freeze, as far as fitting in the culture and getting the boosters in line, I don't think Lane could do that quite as well. I think A&M's kind of in the win now category, which Lane Kiffin fits that bill pretty tightly, especially if they're able to keep some of that five-star talent. I'm hoping that we can just pillage the carcass of A&M in the next couple of weeks with this transfer portal and pluck some of them five-stars out of there. But I think that's all going to depend. I think A&M wants to make a splashy hire, and they want to make it sooner rather than later because they know these kids are going to transfer. So I think if, especially after kind of like that demoralizing loss to Georgia, Ole Miss coming across as not being a top-tier SEC team like the Georgias and the Bamas, I won't say where there's smoke, there's fire, but I've been reading some things about that where it's getting to look a lot more attractive for the Kiffin family to be moving to Texas.
Yep.
And I hope that's not true. I wish I told you I wish that they could get Auburn's coach back.
Well, we'll see. Heard it's hot out there. I don't know if Lane could wear those long sleeve sweater vests he wears.
That poor dog would be running his butt off and picking up the tees. It'd be rough.
Yeah. Number one, congratulations to Jimbo. He's going to be making $26,000 a day until 2031. So congratulations to him. Good for him. That's awesome. I think the fun hire would be Lane Kiffin. It'd be fun for them. It wouldn't be fun for everybody else because they're dangerous with him. If you watch the post-game interview after the Georgia game, dude, Lane just sat back. He looked defeated. Somebody asked him, like, what's the issue? And he's like, man, we got to recruit better. Like, he's like, I'm not hating on our guys, but Georgia's got 26 5-stars and we've got one. Like, at some point, that adds up. At some point, that matters. And if you give him unlimited resources to get the best talent in the country, he can win a championship.
And no money. That's They don't have the money. They don't have the funds to do it.
Exactly. He can put up 50-plus points a game if he's got the guys, especially if he's got a defense, which he's never had. Then he's a real threat. To me, the hire that I would go with, because I'm more of hiring defensive coordinators as head coaches, and then I'm a believer in that. They can build a program better, and then you can go let your offensive coordinator handle that side of the ball. But so me personally, I'd go with Elko from Duke. He was a defensive coordinator at A&M for 3 years. He was a big reason a lot of these top recruits they got 2 years ago came in. He's got history there. He knows the recruiting area. I think that would be the most seamless pick for them. I think he comes in and I think he could retain a lot of the talent because he recruited a lot of it there. And that's the big thing. You don't want a complete rebuild right here. You want to keep the majority of the talent they got, because if they get some random, there's a good chance, half of that roster's gone. So to me, just to retain a lot of those players and get a really good coach who's doing really good at Duke right now, I'd go get Elko.
Well, I'm going to throw out my candidate, and I hope I didn't steal him from anybody. But this is some man, I was up late one night with the flu, just TikToking. And there's a name that came across my TikTok, Dan Campbell. He was a tight end at Texas A&M, and big-time A&M guy, would be a huge hire for them, in my opinion. This man has went to the Detroit Lions and rebuilt the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
And when I said Dan Campbell, some of you might not even knew who I was talking about. That's the kind of, think about it. If you just spent $75 million to get rid of somebody, why not go get somebody for $10 million? Somebody that's not going to break the bank, and you're going to get a lot of return from him. I'll be honest. I think he would be a knockout hire if they could get him. Recruiting, is it really that hard with all that money? I mean,
he's in first place, and
I know, but this is his alma mater. This is, this would be a home run hire, I think, for him and for A&M.
That would be a great hire, but he ain't leaving Detroit.
I don't think he'll leave either, but it's a name.
Another name by the name of Dan Lanning.
Yeah.
So I think
here at Oregon, he could be had.
Yeah.
Oh,
said,
wait a sec.
Oh God.
What the hell is Mel Tucker? Mel?
no. Hey, he might be on the phone at masseuse.
Hey,
That
might be.
And tell Deion Sanders he got to stay his ass in Colorado too. Bye.
Yeah.
Man.
Hey, is there any possibility? Let's be honest. Any possibility Kevin Sumlin comes in the mix?
No.
Think it's a done deal?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no shot.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
All right.
What Texas A&M, what you've got to understand about Texas A&M right now is, number one, Texas A&M is not a top 5 job in the country. It is a top 10, but it's not a top 5. And what makes it top 10 is, number one, you've got money to compete with anybody. Anybody. Yeah. Alabama, Georgia, Tech, anybody. You're also in Texas. Your recruiting is right outside your back window. It's probably jumping on your trampoline as a 9-year-old. But you've got all of that. You've got you've got 110,000 fans in there every weekend. So you've got that. But let's talk about this for a second. I don't think this is something that gets talked about a lot. Texas A&M didn't just get money last week. Texas A&M didn't get just facilities last week. They've had this for a while. What is going on at Texas A&M that is preventing them every single year from not having success? They had the number 1 recruiting class in history. Now I know this was a lot on Jimbo as well, but they had the number 1 recruiting class in history, and they have not even sniffed an SEC championship. Not even. So what is going on there year after year? I think they've had 5 10-win seasons in the last 80 years or something. It's crazy. I don't know the complete stat, but it's horrendous. So is there something else going on at Texas A&M that is making that happen? Which is why, number one, I don't think Lane Kiffin or something like that can happen. You bringing in somebody with a big personality and that kind of stuff going on, that's not what they need right now. Texas A&M right now needs a manager. They need an absolute steady hand that when all else hey, man, we can look to that guy. And that's why you go get you a Mike Elko. That's why you get you a Willie Fritz at Tulane. You go and get some of these guys that have been doing this for a long time and that are steady and heavy hands, and you let them take control. Because what you've got to do with your alumni and in your organization right now is, and Craig hinted to it a minute ago, what you've got to do is go, hey, man, we're going to take our time with this hire. We're not going to hire somebody tomorrow because we just got done paying one of those guys $75 million, and he's going to have his hand in our pot till 2031. So we can't afford to do anything like that anymore. And they're probably not going to come out and pay somebody $10 million a year anymore. They're going to do something. So, but what we've also got to understand is, they've got Jeff Traylor at UTSA right down the road. And UTSA has been having year after year after year. And that's a guy who knows Texas. He knows what it takes out there to recruit. He knows all the coaches. So that could be somebody that you just fill that slot with immediately. But when you go to Willie Fritz at Tulane, I think Willie as far as the playoff goes coming in and out, Willie Fritz at Tulane knows he's got to win that conference every year just to go to the playoff. Texas A&M, he's going to have everything under the sun. He can have a 10-win season and get in and not win the SEC, and he can still go to the playoff, which I think is huge. Mike Elko, same way. The Dan Lanning one, I am very intrigued about Dan Lanning because I wouldn't be surprised either way that one went. I could see Oregon try to pull out the checkbook and pay him everything, but the money doesn't affect that much that the university is in Eugene, Oregon. And that's tough to come down here and get a kid from South Georgia and go, hey, man, you know where you need to be? The Pacific Northwest.
But you know what?
They're doing it.
Point, but Deion Sanders did it.
Yeah, he did do it. He did do it. But
So
he
what
also
I'm
did it
saying,
with his...
you need somebody. I think you got. I understand you're saying you want to get somebody who's done it for a long time. I get that, but sometimes doing it for a long time means you're stuck in your ways.
Yeah.
And then on a recruiting scale, to me, you need somebody who's going to inspire that kind of kid to go to. You know what I'm saying? To go there. You know, you got it.
Dude.
Well, he brings up a good point though. Money, the NIL.
Jimbo seemed to be one of those guys to me, and somehow he inspired the number one class to ever do it. Go there.
That's cold.
And exactly. They do have the money, and I do think Deion Sanders is an option. But again, I think along with him and the Lane Kiffin train, I don't need some big personality right now. That's not what A&M needs. As much stability tomorrow as any team in the country.
I watched the 12-man foundation hand a check to Texas A&M University for $120 million.
At halftime of the game.
Yes, which is foreshadowing. That's kind of crazy, right? So they literally, the 12-man foundation donated $120 million to Texas A&M University at halftime of the game when they fired the coach. It cost $78 million afterwards.
Yes.
I'm not saying that those two line up, but one of them things is not like the other.
Here's the thing.
I agree with you on a lot of points, Jared. I think from a standpoint like you're talking about, they do need a steady hand. They do need to right the ship a little bit. I don't think the boosters give two shits about any of that right now. And the boosters are the ones paying the bill. They want a splashy hire that they can see on a billboard. They want a Lane Kiffin. They want a Deion Sanders. They want a Dan Lanning. They want somebody who's proven that can win and win big soon. They're not looking for the rebuild of 3 years. And you look at if you know anything about business, you look at your ROI, return of investment, right? How much money they invested in these kids is about to transfer out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something we don't have. Well, I mean, we're not privy to all the deals that went down behind to what their NIL money is. They had that best class in the history of recruiting. That cost several $100 million more than likely, and they're about to lose about half of that if they don't get somebody these kids would be excited to play for.
That's what I was going to say. That was my whole point is I think you do have to make a big splash hire, Jared, because it's like if you don't, you lose those kids automatically. And it's like everything you work for is done.
Rebuild.
But, I do agree with you, Jared. Do you bring the baggage of a Deion Sanders where okay, if you get Deion, you get 3 or I guess it'd be 2 kids right off the bat that are superstars in Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. I think Shedeur is a superstar. But, can you keep those other guys just because Deion's coming to town? I mean, you have to.
Yeah, but you know what? But even if you don't keep them, Dalton,
you can get them. I know you can get them.
Deion has a machine. I'm not even saying – I don't think there's too many Deions out there, but there needs to be somebody like a Deion that can inspire people. You know what I mean? I agree. I think Deion could keep them. I think Deion could retain. Obviously, he's going to lose some, but I think he can attract some more talent. And y'all realize when Deion went to Colorado, it was pretty much they was broke. They didn't have the money. Mm-hmm. They also didn't have the time. So I'm just saying they probably won't be here. I just read an article. He's playing it down. Well, who knows what had happened? Usually, I would have thought like if this had happened next year, I would have seen more chance of Deion going to Texas. I don't know about this year, but I do think it needs to be a splash. If not, it's going to be more the same.
Give Coach Prime an unlimited budget. See what happens.
Coach Price, before I throw it to you, I think, what we're missing as well is this is the SEC. And you do have to have that big hire to keep your name relevant. I mean, we talked about Lane Kiffin wanting to get away from Ole Miss maybe because it's Ole Miss. It's exactly right. A&M does seem to be, even though they've never really achieved anything more than Ole Miss, they do seem a step up from Ole Miss, from the Mississippi States. I would put, I know A&M hadn't won a national title and LSU has, but I would put LSU and A&M kind of in the same category. They're big time hires, big time jobs. This could make it or break it for A&M, in my opinion, the hire that they make. But here's the thing, Coach Price, and I want you to answer this as well. When you fire a guy like Jimbo Fisher, don't you already have your guy? You got your mind made up. If not, you wouldn't pull the trigger this early before any other major team in college football does it. You've got your eyes set on a guy. Who is that guy for you, Coach Price?
Well, to answer that second question, you go ahead and get rid of Jimbo while you can so that you can prepare for it. It's not necessarily that you got somebody in place, but you got enough time from here to the end of the season, the bowl season, to get you somebody that you're looking at. Now, I'm going to feed off of what you guys said, and then I'm going to throw a wrench in here that's so big that it's actually a hairy wrench. Okay. You got Dan Lanning. Okay. You mentioned that name. Well, guess what Dan Lanning is? He's a defensive-minded guru. If he comes to Texas A&M, what does he already have in place? A defense. So would he love to be there? Of course. Then you turn around and you say, who's one of the biggest stars to ever come through the state of Texas? Ain't nobody other than Prime. When you talk about the Dallas Cowboys, you don't talk about nobody but Deion Sanders when they played. You got Troy Aikman, you got Emmitt Smith, you got Michael Irvin, but how many 21 jerseys did you see? So when it comes to the state of Texas, it's nothing bigger in the state of Texas than Deion Sanders. But the problem is this. Okay, and even Lane Kiffin. Lane could come turn that program around in a heartbeat. Got more money than you'll ever see at Ole Miss, can get better athletes than you'll get at Ole Miss. So those are three great choices. But the problem is you're really going to have to pay those guys. They're not going to go to Texas A&M just because it's Texas A&M. Like Jerry said, you probably had 10 winning seasons in 55 years. So you're not just going to come to Texas A&M because it's Texas A&M. So you're going to hire somebody that knows how to use talent, knows how to recruit, knows how to handle the media and the pressure and all the other things that comes with being in the SEC. And you got to have somebody who's a proven winner, no matter what they may have done. So here's the wrench that nobody's thinking about. You know
Here
it.
we go. Yeah.
Mr. Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
He knows how to use talent. He's been in the SEC before. He's not afraid of anybody in the SEC. And out of all the teams that he's had, including Florida and Ohio State, he don't have that kind of talent. Look for somebody like that. That's a splash of a name that's cheap. Now, nobody's saying that Urban Meyer is going to come there and he's going to be the coach for the next 10, 15 years. But with the budget that you got to try to save what you got there before they hit the transfer portal, you got to sell something. Now, no matter how it goes, if you take a toy, you take a car, you can go to the junkyard. It doesn't matter. It's been sitting up under a tree for 14 years. You put a good cleaning on it, and it'll sell. So the bottom line is Texas A&M has money, but the money that they got is to try to hold on to what they got because they got to pay Jimbo so much. Now you can say, well, they're only paying him $12 million a year not to be there, but what are you paying the new guy that comes in? If you're paying Jimbo that, do you think that if Deion Sanders come in there, who's been in the state of Texas, who knows all about that oil money, do you think he gonna say, since y'all paying Jimbo $12 million a year, I'll take 2 million books of food stamps and we'll just run it? No. Deion gonna want money if he goes to Texas A&M. He only went to Colorado just to get out of a lower school,
Exactly.
to go prove that he could do something. But when he went to Colorado, he never went to Colorado thinking that I'm gonna be the next Texas A&M coach. Because if I'm the next Texas A&M coach, buddy, I want to get paid. I know all about that oil money. Dan Lanning, like I said, what you can do is come in. You got a defense right off the jump that you could turn into to at least the number 3 defense in the SEC, right behind Alabama and Georgia. Easily, you could bring them in and get them there. And Lane Kiffin, you could come in, have that defense, get you a killer offense, recruit you a top-notch quarterback, flip you a top-notch quarterback, or get you one out of the transfer portal. And what you would do at Texas A&M is going to surpass anything you've ever done. But Lane's going to cost money. They're not going to pay that kind of money because they haven't paid money.
Let me give you some breakdown on the money here. So, and I just looked at this. So it says, I looked up an article that talked about Fortune 500 and how much $1 billion is. $1 billion is 1,000 million. So the 500 richest people in the world, there's like 3 or 4 of them that are Texas A&M boosters that are all billionaires. Those guys make an average of $14 million a day on their investments. $14 million a day. You think they're worried about cutting Jimbo Fisher a check for $78 million? They're riding around that money in their ashtray. I hate to say that.
Cut the money. But that's the thing. They got the money to pay Jimbo, and they're going to pay Jimbo. But who are you going to pay next to come in and could end up with the same situation? You could have
whoever
a Jimbo
the hell they want, and not even ask their accountant about it.
So look, I want to get
this. You're going to make a splash, but the splash that you're going to make it on a cheaper end. But you want somebody who can handle the pressure of the SEC. And like I said, that would be Urban Meyer, or you could go get Barry's old guy. Go Tigers.
Where's Ron? I think they're Lambo shopping, guys. I think they're shopping for Lamborghinis.
Hey, let me give you 3 names, and I want a reaction from you guys here. And these 3 guys are in the top 10 Vegas odds, okay? And 2 of them I had in my head, but I didn't mention them, all right? And these, you talked about being able to handle the SEC. One of these guys has proven to do that. These other 2 guys have proven to win and everywhere they've been. And then one of them in particular is a quarterback genius. All right. Number 1, PJ Fleck has won at Minnesota and turned that whole program around. That's one that you said you needed a guy to come in there and be, not a big time splash. There's your guy. Number 2, Cliff Kingsbury.
No,
he is a great coach.
No,
offensive genius. He is. Look at some of the teams he's been a part of and the quarterbacks he's had. And then the third one, James Franklin. There's one person that would love to look for a new job. And this man, hey, this man, listen, these are the odds. Don't come at me. These are the odds. I'm looking at them. James Franklin, think about it. He won at Vanderbilt. There's some guy that can win in the SEC. I'm just telling you, you give him money. He's a good coach.
He has fleeced Penn State out of tens of millions of dollars, and he has fleeced the positive opinions on him out of every body who doesn't know football because he won 9 games at Vanderbilt. His whole career is built on I won 9 games at Vanderbilt.
That's a hell of a stat.
Oh, it is. It is. It is. And if PJ Fleck didn't go to Auburn when he had the chance, he's not going to Texas A&M now. It's not.
I do agree,
and it's
but
not the fit for him. That's not. If this was in the same hunt as when he was when Auburn was trying to get him, maybe now.
I do have one more name that to me is really interesting, and I'm more with Jared. I don't think they need to do a huge splash, big name, because I don't think they're going to have trouble with recruiting in NIL. I don't think you have to get a guy who can recruit. You need more of a GM who can control everything. Who is familiar with Texas? Who has won everywhere he's went? Who is a veteran at been in college football a very long time, who knows how to control a program? Mac Brown. Mac Brown out of North Carolina could go to Texas A&M, and I think he could win the West within 3, 4, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's
does he have 3, 4, 5 years?
I mean, he might not, but
Dang, that would be my only thing. Because golly, I know. What, Craig? You say he was in the 60s?
Yeah.
Is that it?
I think he's late 60s, like 69, 70. I mean, I have to look at that. It was surprisingly young because I'm like, man, coaching makes you look rough. Whenever they interviewed him for, I was like, he's had a rough life.
No kid, dude. I thought he was 75, no doubt about it. Oh my
God. The one that scares me more than anything, which I don't think will happen, is Dan Lanning. If you put that man with that talent, oh my God,
there's another
defense will shut down everybody.
There's another Dan. That's another.
Is there a shot Will Muschamp comes back?
No. You don't try that circus again.
Yeah.
I just saw one potential name. Another Dan.
Mullen.
Quinn.
Oh.
No, I don't. I don't see Dan Quinn being on the recruiting trail deal all the time, 24. Because that's a big deal. That's why the Dan Campbell thing doesn't really make that much sense to me. You coming from the NFL down to college, you went from working, 8 months of the year, because now you're working 12 months of the year all the time, every day, and that's why these guys want to go to the NFL. They don't want to have to deal with recruiting.
And speaking of Dan Mullen,
are these head coaches actually going out, sitting in living rooms?
Kirby is
daily.
Yeah,
and Saban.
That man will get on a helicopter
and freeze, and man, they where it's crazy.
That's why these guys get paid like this, and that's why the burnout's like it is, man.
And
these
now
guys
just
do it all day,
just texting constantly.
Yeah.
Recruits, how'd you do? I mean, especially this time of year when the high school playoffs are going on, man, this is their busiest time of the year.
Hey, and speaking of Dan Mullen, he might be going back home.
Yeah, true.
The return to Mississippi State.
Here's what I think, Dalton. I think A&M thinks they got a race car.
TV.
I think they do have a race car. They got a brand new Lamborghini sitting there. They ain't going to go hire some jackleg to keep it 65 miles an hour in the right lane.
Yeah.
They want somebody that knows how to get in and drive the damn thing and win races. And I think now whether they can pull it off or not, I'm not saying they can hire. I know that money's one hell of an aphrodisiac, and Auburn didn't have it. And that was kind of a lateral move, or maybe one step up from Ole Miss to Auburn. That's a big jump from Ole Miss to A&M. Just the money with boosters.
Hey, check out this selling point. Hi, my name is Urban Meyer, and this is my assistant coach, head coach, and offensive coordinator, Mr. Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
Hey, I've said for the longest, look, I hate the dude to death, but if I'm a head coach and I got my defense squared away and I want a guy who can come develop a quarterback and score points, I'm hiring Dan Mullen. I am hiring Dan Mullen day one.
Yeah, just keep him off camera where he does all that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But you better have a quarterback.
No media. Yeah.
You can't do it with a mediocre one.
Yeah, and you better have great HR because his wife makes out with the players. But look up Dan Mullen's wives with players because it is a weird Google image. Multiple of them up close and personal.
We got two turning.
Well, two-turn. You have just joined us at the next slide here as we lose Jared. I guess he's gonna enjoy that milkshake from Cookout. I don't blame him. But it's time for the best matchup of the week, and the week is week 12. We'll start with you, Craig. What's your favorite matchup of the week?
Bring up the slide again, Dalton. Yeah, there we go. I got to say, it's pretty interesting to me, and I hate to say this as an ACC matchup, but Louisville-Miami, because Louisville is getting no love. Going to Miami as a 1-point favorite. I mean, you think that'd be a 2-touchdown spread, but it's not. So that's going to be my fun matchup of the week. I think Georgia's going to stomp Tennessee a new one. Utah and Arizona is also intriguing. That's a coin flip according to Vegas. But I'm going Louisville-Miami. That's my one I'm going to watch. I don't think Oregon. I don't think the Beavs have anything for Washington. Kansas K-State. That's in-state rivalry. You never can tell about that game. That's a flip up. It'll be a fun one to watch. It's not in Little Apple at least, so we'll see. But my matchup of the week is Louisville-Miami.
Yeah, I think it's perfect timing. Two-turn coming in here because he's calling for the major upset this week, but it very well could happen. But it's Washington, Oregon State. Jared, go ahead and say the Oregon State name for me. The quarterback, DJ what?
DJ, you
There you go. Look, Dabo ruined that man. Dabo brainwashed all of us to thinking DJ sucks. He ain't no home run hitter all the time, but he is a very good quarterback, at least in that conference. And Washington has shown they're going to start their defense at the start of the year. We thought was something good. They're not. They're giving up a lot of points, and Michael Penix is saving them. So that is going to be a shootout. I don't know what the over-under is, but hit the over. And it, upset alert, it could happen.
I agree. Coach Price, what you got?
Well, all those games are pretty good. I'm not worried about the Georgia-Tennessee game, even though it's a big game. We already know. Plus, Georgia's already in the SEC championship, so it's really nothing to lose other than a game. As far as Louisville and Miami is just, Cristobal, he got to get it together. That whole program right now is really hurt. But the game I think is the most intriguing to me is the Washington and Oregon State game. And the only reason why is because what Dylan said. Washington's defense isn't that great. And the quarterback has been bailing them out pretty much the last 4 weeks. So if Oregon State can just somehow get some stops, make a few plays on special teams, I think literally they can upset Washington because it is they are at home. So, Washington on the road, if you look at their road games, just about every road game they've had it's come down to the fourth quarter within the last 2 minutes of the ball game. So, to me, the game that I think is the one I really want to watch is going to be the Washington-Oregon State game, just because Washington knows you got to stay perfect because Oregon is coming after you.
Yeah, absolutely. The Georgia-Tennessee game, to me, ultimate letdown spot for Georgia. You got to make sure, and I think Kirby will have it right, especially at Neyland. You got to come in and be ready to play that game because you don't want somebody to sneak up on you. But again, like y'all said, it's the Washington-Oregon State game. Did y'all know that if Washington played Oregon tomorrow, Oregon would be a -7 favorite?
Yeah.
So Washington's been playing with fire the last few weeks here. And Oregon State, man, they can tee off on you in a heartbeat. Washington's got to come out and got to play well because you going in to play Oregon here soon again. I mean, you step off base in that one, you're going to get tagged. I know they got it the first time, but my God. All these other games are really just meaningless. Miami with Cristobal. Kansas State is fun to watch. But, yeah, Washington, Oregon State will be the game to watch. But Georgia's got to step up in the ultimate letdown spot.
Mm-hmm.
Tony.
Yeah, obviously mine's going to be Washington, Oregon State. Before I get into that, real quick, Kansas State. Apparently, I was talking with Evan. Apparently, there's a favorite right now, percentage-wise, for Kansas State as a possibility to get into the Big 12 championship. So I know this is kind of low on everybody's radar, but if Kansas State gets into the Big 12 championship, that's a problem for Texas. If you watch that game, Kansas State very well could have beaten Texas and had the chance at the end right there, and they just blew it. But, yeah, Dylan blew my spot earlier. Washington, Oregon State, by far, I am calling the upset because, look, y'all know since week 1, I have been a Washington guy. I've been a Michael Penix Jr. guy this whole time. But, dude, the last 4 to 5 weeks of me watching him and this team, they're really struggling. Like, honestly, defense is in shambles. And as great as Penix is, he's digressing right now. He hit his peak too early.
It's like they peaked at Oregon, right?
Do what now?
Like they peaked again in the Oregon game.
Yeah. I mean, if you watch lately, dude, he's throwing a lot. I mean, he's getting saved by his receivers, and they're great. But, dude, a lot of these balls, he's just slinging them up. And Oregon State's actually got a pretty good defense, man. If you look at it outside of like 2 games, they're holding guys under 17 points. And like I said, it is at home. And on top of this, dude, this has major, major implications, not only within the conference, but the playoff. Oregon State has a chance to ruin the whole Pac-12's chances at the playoff. If they pull this upset off this week against Washington, they have momentum going into Eugene, Oregon next week.
Yeah.
And if they beat Washington and then beat Oregon, it's a rematch right back between Oregon State and Oregon for the Pac-12 championship, which obviously eliminates the Pac-12 from the playoff anyway. I think if Washington loses, the Pac-12's out. There's no way, in my opinion, that you put a one-loss Oregon in over a one-loss SEC team, regardless of who it is in the SEC championship. I don't think so because, I mean, but then again, you never know. The committee's not going by what the regulations are at the moment because if they were, Texas and Alabama would be above Oregon because the strength of schedule is terrible.
How many losses does Oregon State have?
2.
Two.
They lost to Arizona, which people sleep on Arizona, man. Their defense is stout. They're really young on offense. Like, I don't know what they got going on. Arizona's not a bad team.
They got a tough one this week against Utah. That's going to be a close game.
I got Arizona winning.
All right. Well, I guess, boys, it is time for the pick'em, right? Let's run through it.
Get my man Jared in there.
Jared, go ahead. Run it.
Ooh, give me this one. Give me Georgia by 40. No, I'm just kidding. Georgia, I think Georgia by 14 in this one. I think this game is closer than we think. Like I said, this is a huge letdown spot. Luckily, and this is a crazy thing to say, luckily Georgia goes on the road, so you got to pay a little more attention to this game than if it was at home. Louisville, Miami. I mean, Miami played a good game last week. Against Florida State. If Tyler Van Dyke doesn't throw a pick right there on that last drive, it is. And by the way, if y'all didn't watch that game, that was a safety. By the way,
No doubt.
I don't know. I don't.
I don't
get
understand
that one.
how it was reviewed and not. I don't know.
Don't get that one at all. So I'm taking Miami in that game. So I got Georgia, Miami, Utah, Arizona. I'm with 2 turn, and that's with the number 2, not a T. I got Arizona in this game. Utah had a great run, but this Arizona team, man, they are disgusting, and they play hard. They play super hard. Washington, Oregon State. I want to pick Oregon State so badly. But the minute I do, Washington is going to win this game. So I got to pick Washington. I'll give Washington the edge by maybe a field goal if they're lucky. You know what? No, screw it. I'm picking Oregon State. I'm doing it. Screw it. I just talked myself into it. And on my pick'ems, when Washington wins, y'all need to give me a win. And Kansas State, man. I don't know if y'all have watched a lot of Kansas State, man, but they are fun to watch. There's just something. There's something about that purple and white that just gets me fired up at a noon kickoff. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that just gets me going. So I got Kansas State.
All right. Craig, what do you got?
I got Georgia over Tennessee. I got Louisville going into Miami and winning. I got Arizona at home, just for the simple fact they're playing at home, and that's it. That's a coin flip. I'm going with the Beavs against Washington. I think Washington, like we talked about earlier, has been trending down a little bit. and Penix in particular. So it's hard to say trending down when he's still passing for 400 yards a game. but I gotta. You might never hear me say this, but I gotta agree with Two Turn on this one. His receivers have saved him quite a bit. He's had some playmakers that went up and taken a couple interceptions away. I've seen some highlights, so got to go with Oregon State. And I'm taking the Jayhawks to go to K-State and win that game, 8-point favorite.
Kansas is the favorite?
Yep.
Mhm.
I believe so. Double check
That's
on
who
that
I.
one. Nope, sorry,
Yeah.
Kansas State. Kansas State. I said that backwards. Kansas State's favorite.
I was about to say Kansas is on their third string quarterback.
Yeah, Craig. I got Georgia over Tennessee. I got Louisville. I think they look good. They have one loss, and I think today I didn't look on the predictor, but as of 2 days ago, they had still a. I think if they won out, it was still under a 10% chance of making the playoff.
Good.
So I'll actually look that up when we get off here, and we'll go over the predictor because that was quite fun last Thursday. I'm with y'all. I think Arizona's going to beat Utah. I think Utah has kind of run out of gas. They've had injuries since game one, and it's caught up to them. They're going to lose this game. I'll be honest with you. I think Washington. I think they're going to get it done.
Smart man.
Oregon State, great ball club. It's going to be a tough game, but I think this might be the game that you get to see maybe the best Washington. I think it's setting up like we talked about for 2 weeks straight now, and I'll bring it up again and make it 3. I think it's going to come down to a Pac-12 championship. Winner goes to the playoff, and the winner is also your Heisman Trophy winner. I think that's what we're lining up, and by God, I want it to happen because that'd be great for college football. The last game, if Kansas wasn't on their third string quarterback, I'd pick them to win. I just don't think they're going to have enough to go into, the Little Apple or whatever they call it there in Manhattan, Kansas. But Kansas State gets it done. And then I'm going to go with Dylan. Who you got?
Well, my brother Milton, he ain't going to be able to get it done this week. Before last week, I really did look at, like Jared said, I looked at this as a trap game. But Missouri sucked every bit of life out of that program with how they pulled away in the second half. Their season's done. I think they've quit. They got demoralized. There was 2 white guys running the football, and you couldn't stop them. And you're about to get the same thing with Georgia, a bunch of Caucasian fellas running around. But I think Georgia wins that and covers. Here's my shocker. At Miami, I think Miami blows Louisville out of the water.
Wow. Okay.
I think Miami wins by 17 plus. Louisville just played, to me, one of the worst teams in the country in Virginia, and they had to win it late. Utah, Arizona, I'm going to stick with a hot hand with Arizona. If it was at Utah, it'd be a different story. Playing at Arizona, I'm gonna stick with Arizona. I want to jump on the trend and pick Oregon State, but maybe the football gods are going to be on our side and give us a Washington-Oregon rematch, for the playoff, for the Heisman. So I'm going to stick with Washington. And then, Kansas State wins easy and covers.
Well, real quick, even if Oregon State beats Washington, the only way it's not an Oregon-Washington Pac-12 championship is if Oregon State upsets Oregon the following week too. So even if Washington blows this game, unless Oregon State marches into Eugene and beats Oregon, they still rematch either way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think the committee looks at it different. A one-loss Washington, to me, it doesn't have it.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I think if Washington loses, the Pac-12 champion, I think that they're probably like borderline being out of the playoff.
I can see that, but I think they're high on Oregon. I think just like a lot of people, they're high on Oregon. If Oregon wins out, they're in.
Yeah, but if Washington loses against Oregon, it's gotta hurt Oregon in some way because they lost to them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think one thing that they're hoping for, though, for the Pac-12's sake, is there is no better situation than Washington's only loss being to Oregon in the Pac-12 championship, and there's no better scenario for Oregon to have their only loss early in the season to a one-loss Washington that they beat. So
okay.
I mean,
so and let me combat you right there with something. So let's say that happens. So if that comes down to that, let's say that there's a one-loss Pac-12 champion, and then you got Texas winning the Big 12, Ohio State and/or Michigan undefeated. They've won the Big 10. And then let's say Alabama upsets Georgia, and it's a one-loss SEC champion. You think, because like I said, I don't care what the scenario. There's no way you keep out Alabama if they upset Georgia with the strength of schedule plus adding that Georgia win. You have to put Texas in over the Pac-12 champion, in my opinion.
In my opinion,
because Texas's best win would be over Alabama, who would be arguably, if they beat Georgia, they're going to be called the hottest team in the country, whether they are or not. I mean. So who do you go with? Do you go with Texas or do you go with the Oregon-Washington winner?
So I think they go hand in hand. If it is Texas in the Big 10 and it is Alabama, they both are in, and Oregon would be out. I do agree. I mean, I think that's the only thing I could see making sense to me. But if Texas is not your Big 12 champion, I think Alabama misses out.
Because
I really do.
I just don't see. I mean, if Alabama, I just don't I mean, like I said, right now, I don't think we're going to beat Georgia. I mean, you can get that on video. I don't think we're beating Georgia at this very moment. But if it does happen, I just don't understand any way possible, other than the Texas head-to-head, that where you can make an argument for any other team as far like ACC or Pac-12, unless the Pac-12 is undefeated.
That's the only scenario is if Florida State, Washington, and the winner of the Big Ten is undefeated, then Texas would get in over Bama because of the head-to-head.
Yeah, and I agree.
The only scenario.
That would absolutely fucking suck.
Well, Dylan, you brought up a good point earlier. Tony, what do you think about this? Let's say that Alabama loses last week of the season versus Auburn. They're still in the SEC championship, and they beat Georgia.
If we win it, we're out. But look, I'm sorry, Craig. I'm not trying to be cocky, but that ain't happening. We ain't losing Auburn.
Hey, listen, you're not hearing my argument. Dylan's thing that he said, not his argument. If Alabama were to lose to Auburn and then go beat Georgia, Georgia would be in the college football playoff. One loss.
Well, it depends. Like I said, let's do the same scenario. It would have to depend on the Pac-12 champion losing still, because like I said, if Florida State's undefeated, if Texas wins the Big 12 championship, the Big 10 champion's undefeated, and the Pac-12 champ's undefeated, Georgia would be left out.
Georgia would not be left out.
No, Georgia would go in over Bama. If Bama's too
No, Bama's out at this point. No, that's not what I'm saying. So, look, if Bama was to lose to Auburn and go in as a two-loss team in the SEC championship, and then they beat Georgia, and Georgia's a one-loss SEC loser versus an undefeated ACC champ in Florida State, which is automatically in, an undefeated Big Ten champion team, which is already in, an undefeated Pac-12 champion, they're in, and a one-loss Big 12 champion whose win is over Alabama. They get in over Georgia in that scenario. Georgia's out.
Likely, yeah.
So, last hypothetical.
But if there's a one-loss Pac-12 champion and Georgia loses that SEC championship, I think Georgia deserves to be in over that Pac-12 champion, period, in the story.
So, last hypothetical, and then we'll throw it to wrap up this show here. What if we have, a Washington lose a game here, and then let's just say for hypotheticals, Washington beats Oregon in the Pac-12 champion as a one-loss Pac-12 champion. Florida State is a one-loss ACC champion.
Florida State's out.
Hold on. There's two one-loss champions. All right. And then you have Texas, one-loss champion. All right. And then to wrap it up, you have it'd be an undefeated, I guess, Big Ten champion. Who's in?
Florida State's out. One-loss ACC champion automatically eliminated. They're worse than the Pac-12. The only other team's Louisville, and then like we're saying, Louisville's.
But think of Oregon's strength of schedule can't be that much better than Florida State. They beat LSU.
But it doesn't matter. You got to look at the whole conference, and it's like you say, it's not just the win, because also you got to add in, Oregon. Who we said Oregon, right? That's who we're saying, or Washington.
Washington is a one loss.
Okay, so their one loss would be, and their best win would be Oregon. Florida State's best, their best win would be LSU. So that's not a good. That's not a
Their
good win.
best win would be Louisville.
Well, like I said, we're still yet to be determined on what Louisville's going to do the rest of the year, and Louisville's loss is would be worse than Washington or Oregon's loss. In my opinion, the ACC as a whole is way worse than the Pac-12, which I'm not used to saying.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
If the ACC loses, this should be treated like Cincinnati. Honestly, when Cincinnati lost if they had lost the game, they would not have made the playoff. If Florida State loses the game, which I don't think they will, then they got to be out. I don't care if they win the conference or not. It is way too bad in the ACC for them to get in my opinion, if they lose.
Yep.
All right. Well, you heard it there, folks. Coach Price, what do you got to pick them on here?
Well, I'm going to save the best for last. So I'm going to start it with Kansas State. It doesn't matter if Kansas is on their 15th quarterback. When it comes to a rivalry game in the state of Kansas, things get a little crazy. But I agree with you. Kansas State is too much for Kansas to handle. So I'll take Kansas State in this ball game. Washington, Oregon State. This is your upset alert if there is any upset alert come Saturday. I'm going for Washington. I'm pulling from Washington to win, but would not be surprised if they get upset by Oregon State. Not at all. Utah, Arizona. At the beginning of the year, I picked Florida to beat Utah. Thought it would happen. Utah was on a backup quarterback, came out, spanked Florida's tail. But they're not going to beat Arizona. Those boys are for real. They got a solid defense. They're coached well. I don't think Utah can go into Arizona and pull off the upset. Louisville, Miami. I don't think Miami is there yet. I think they're far from being there. What they can do is they could ruin Louisville's dream of what major bowl or what high-ranked bowl that they could go to. But I don't think Miami can really pull it off. I think everything that we saw out of Miami and what they can do and as hard as they can go and the quote-unquote phrase we always use, leave it all out on the field. Well, that Florida State game, Miami left everything they had out on the field. They got nothing else in the tank. They played their hearts out, but I don't think that they can recoup from the Florida State game from how hard they played because they haven't played that hard all year long. No matter who you are, when you go out and you give it all you got in a ball game and you've never given it that much effort before, your feet are still not up under you the following week. So I don't see Miami being able to upset Louisville. Now, Georgia, Tennessee. I know if you told me if it was a bulldog and a hound in a cage, the bulldog has a muzzle on because he'll rip that hound apart. I can't stand them hounds. They got ticks. Like your mom used to tell you all the time, you lay down with dogs with fleas and you'll catch fleas. Georgia is going to run right through them. And when I say run right through them, it's like my man Merle Hodge used to say back in the day, Tate Rallich is going to have a seal here, Mims is going to have a seal there, and we're going to watch our running backs hit the alley. So give me Georgia over Tennessee, and when I say give me Georgia over Tennessee, I'm talking big. For a quarter and a half, Tennessee and them stinking dogs that they got are going to hang with Georgia for, but like I said, about a quarter and a half. Then it's a blowout. So all day long, Georgia over Tennessee. I don't care if Georgia was ranked 44th in the nation and Tennessee was ranked number 1. I'm still picking Georgia over Tennessee because you'll never see me go for Tennessee, period. And one of the reasons why is I lost a bet back in the day. And a lot of my friends used to think I was a Tennessee fan, and I wasn't. But Peyton Manning spanked our tails. So I said if Peyton Manning comes and he beats Georgia, I'll wear anything Tennessee y'all.
No.
Oh, we lost him, didn't we?
No.
Oh,
Tennessee done made Coach freeze
Oh, man.
in the middle of his sermon here.
I'll take us home.
Well, you know what? Tony, take us home.
I'll make this pretty quick. Yeah, Georgia beats the shit out of Tennessee at the world's largest LGBTQ stadium in the world. Them guys, they'll be done by halftime. They'll be going down to the other gay bar down the street, just celebrate some more. I got Louisville beating Miami. Arizona beating Utah. Like I said, I really do think Oregon State's beating Washington. Like I wanted Utah to beat Washington last week, but like that was just, a hope. I really do believe if I could go put money on it, I'd bet Oregon State. I just think they're going to control the clock enough on offense to keep the ball out of Penix's hands, and I think this is the game where he doesn't get bailed out by his receivers. I really think that's going to happen, and then it makes things interesting. And Kansas State absolutely freaking lays a fat one on Kansas. That's all I got. That easy. Heard the tickets to the gay bar are half price too. So if y'all want to go to Knoxville, you can probably get them half off.
Well,
we're definitely gonna be cutting your segment out.
Yeah. Tony's segment will be cut, but the Chop and Block podcast are proud supporters of the LGBTQ RS positive. We love everybody here at the Chop and Block podcast.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with it. I just said, hey, if you want it, it's half off.
But hey, if more of y'all folks get together in Knoxville, we would understand too. But this has been the Chop and Block podcast presented by DJ's Clam Shack. It's go dogs. But Dylan, you got something different.
And go Vols.
Oh, well.
Send us home. Get us off here.
Tony going to hell, Dalton. Not that shit.
Yeah, we about to do it. Watch us get into it. We some number